The Corleonese Mafia, originating from the small town of Corleone in Sicily, Italy, rose to infamy as one of the most ruthless and feared factions within the Sicilian Mafia, also known as Cosa Nostra. The Corleones were notorious for their involvement in extortion, robbery, drug trafficking, and murder, which they executed with unparalleled brutality. Their story is a dark and complex narrative that spans several decades, marked by a relentless quest for power, control, and dominance over the criminal underworld of Italy and beyond. The origins of the Corleonese Mafia Corleone, a quaint town nestled in the Sicilian countryside, was an unlikely birthplace for one of the most powerful mafia factions in history. The town, however, had a long history of banditry and rural crime, which laid the groundwork for the emergence of organized crime. The Mafia in Corleone began as a loosely organized group of local men who engaged in petty crimes such as cattle rustling, robbery, and extortion. Over time, these men formed a more structured and hierarchical organization, adopting the codes of secrecy and loyalty that would define the Mafia. The early Corleonese Mafia was primarily concerned with controlling the local economy through extortion and protection rackets. They imposed pizzo, protection money, on local farmers, merchants, and landowners, offering them protection from other criminals in exchange for regular payments. Failure to pay would result in violence or even death, ensuring a steady stream of income for the Mafia. As the Mafia's influence in Corleone grew, so did their ambitions. The Corleones began to expand their operations beyond the town's borders, seeking to control the surrounding areas and establish their dominance within the broader Sicilian Mafia. This expansion brought them into conflict with other Mafia families, leading to a series of bloody feuds that would shape the future of the Corleonese Mafia. The rise of the Corleonese Mafia. The Corleonese Mafia's rise to power began in earnest in the mid-20th century under the leadership of a man named Luciano Leggio. Born in Corleone in 1925, Leggio was a brutal and ambitious criminal who quickly rose through the ranks of the local mafia. He was known for his ruthlessness and willingness to use violence to achieve his goals, qualities that would define the Corleonese Mafia for decades to come. Leggio's ascent to power was marked by a violent power struggle within the Corleonese Mafia. In 1958, he orchestrated the murder of Michele Navarra, the then boss of the Corleonese Mafia, in a bloody ambush. With Navarra out of the way, Leggio took control of the organization, setting the stage for the Corleonese Mafia's rise to prominence. Under Leggio's leadership, the Corleonese Mafia became one of the most feared and powerful factions within the Sicilian Mafia. They engaged in a wide range of criminal activities, including extortion, robbery, and drug trafficking. Leggio's control over the Corleonese Mafia was absolute, and he ruled with an iron fist, using violence and intimidation to eliminate rivals and consolidate his power. One of Leggio's most significant achievements was his involvement in the First Mafia War, a brutal conflict between rival mafia families that erupted in the early 1960s. The Corleonese Mafia played a key role in this conflict, using their ruthlessness and military-like discipline to gain the upper hand. The war resulted in the deaths of numerous mafia members and paved the way for the Corleonese Mafia's dominance within Cosa Nostra. The reign of Toto Riina and the Corleonese's stranglehold on Sicily, Luciano Leggio's reign over the Corleonese Mafia lasted until his arrest in 1974. But his legacy lived on through his protégé, Salvatore Toto Riina. Riina, born in Corleone in 1930, was a brutal and cunning leader who would take the Corleonese Mafia to new heights of power and infamy. After Leggio's arrest, Riina assumed control of the Corleonese Mafia, and under his leadership, the organization became even more violent and ruthless. Riina was determined to establish the Corleones as the dominant force within the Sicilian Mafia, and he was willing to go to any lengths to achieve this goal. One of Riena's most notorious acts was his role in the Second Mafia War, which erupted in the early 1980s. The conflict was sparked by a power struggle between the Corleonese Mafia and the Palermo-based Mafia families, who had traditionally held the most power within Cosa Nostra. Riina orchestrated a campaign of terror and violence against his rivals, targeting both Mafia members and their families in a bid to assert his dominance. The Second Mafia War was marked by unprecedented levels of violence, with hundreds of Mafia members and innocent civilians being killed in bombings, shootings, and assassinations. Riina's tactics were so brutal that they earned him the nickname the Beast, La Belva, within the criminal underworld. By the end of the conflict, the Corleonese Mafia had emerged victorious, and Riina had established himself as the undisputed leader of Cosa Nostra. With the Corleonese Mafia now in control of the Sicilian Mafia, Riina set about expanding the organization's criminal empire. Under his leadership, the Corleones became heavily involved in international drug trafficking, particularly the heroin trade. The Mafia established lucrative connections with drug cartels in South America and the United States, using their influence and networks to smuggle vast quantities of drugs into Europe and North America. The profits from drug trafficking allowed the Corleonese Mafia to further consolidate their power, and they used their wealth to bribe politicians, law enforcement officials, and judges, ensuring that they could operate with impunity. Riina's control over the Italian state became so extensive that he was able to orchestrate the murders of high-profile anti-mafia figures, including judges Giovanni Falcone and Paolo Borsellino, who were leading investigations into Cosa Nostra. The fall of the Corleonese Mafia. Despite their immense power and influence, the Corleonese Mafia's reign was not to last. The murders of Falcone and Borsellino in 1992 sparked widespread outrage in Italy and led to a massive crackdown on the Mafia by the Italian government. The public, fed up with the Mafia's stranglehold on the country, demanded action, and the state responded with unprecedented force. The Italian government launched a series of anti-mafia operations, known as the Maxi Trials, which resulted in the arrest and conviction of hundreds of Mafia members, including Toto Riina. In 1993, Riina was captured by the Italian authorities after more than 2 decades on the run. His arrest was a significant blow to the Corleonese Mafia, and it marked the beginning of the end for their dominance within Cosa Nostra. Following Riina's arrest, the Corleonese Mafia began to fragment, as internal power struggles and increased law enforcement pressure took their toll on the organization. The Mafia's influence in Sicily began to wane, and many of its leaders were either arrested or killed in the ensuing years. One of the most significant events in the decline of the Corleonese Mafia was the arrest of Bernardo Provenzano, another key figure within the organization, in 2006. Provenzano, who had taken over the leadership of the Corleonese Mafia after Riina's capture, had managed to evade capture for over 4 decades. His arrest marked the end of an era for the Corleonese Mafia and signaled the final collapse of their once mighty criminal empire. The legacy of the Corleonese Mafia. The story of the Corleonese Mafia is a testament to the brutal and destructive nature of organized crime. From their humble beginnings in the small town of Corleone, the Corleones rose to become one of the most powerful and feared mafia factions in history, leaving a trail of violence, corruption, and suffering in their wake. The Corleonese Mafia's legacy is one of bloodshed and terror, but it is also a story of resilience and resistance. The Italian state's eventual crackdown on the Mafia, spurred by the public outcry following the murders of Falcone and Borsellino, demonstrated that even the most powerful criminal organizations could be brought to justice. Today, the Corleonese Mafia's power has been significantly diminished, but their influence still lingers in the shadows of Sicilian society. the Mafia's legacy continues to be felt in the ongoing fight against organized crime in Italy and around the world. The story of the Corleonese Mafia serves as a stark reminder of the dangers posed by organized crime and the importance of vigilance and perseverance in the face of such threats. Conclusion. The Corleonese Mafia's story is a dark and cautionary tale of how a small group of ruthless individuals can rise to power through violence, intimidation, and corruption. Their involvement in extortion, robbery, drug trafficking, and murder left a lasting impact on Sicily and the world, and their legacy continues to serve as a warning of the dangers of organized crime. The fall of the Corleonese Mafia, however, also demonstrates that even the most powerful criminal organizations can be defeated through the combined efforts of law enforcement, the judiciary, and society at large.